No, Selden Ball, I don't think anything is.
No, I don't think anything is.
Hush up over there. I didn't even realize that computer was set up. That happened because Dennis's Fortnite channel this morning redirected to this show. Selden Ball says, "Hey, what's going on? I'm not seeing anything in chat." I'm paraphrasing there. Although there seems to be 9 people watching, is there something wrong at my end? No, there's nobody saying hello in chat. I don't know. I was wondering too. Did somebody's conspiring to let Doug feel lonely this morning? Today's title, Windows 94 Tech Tales. Some of you remember my Tech Tales episodes from last year. We got up to episode 100 and then kind of shifted away from that. But I've got some Tech Tale stories to tell today. A little bit of show, some tell. Zvi says we are in mute. What? I heard sound. We are in. No, sound's coming over. What do you mean we are in mute? I do. Somebody suggested yesterday that I keep chat visible all the time. I'm going to try out a technique to do that, to avoid that mess up that I had yesterday. So I'm actually popping out chat. I guess I can show you a little bit of what I'm doing here. I popped out chat, so it's in a separate window, and I'm dragging it over to my monitor that has my, ooh, that went weird. Not what I want. Get over there. Get over there. Okay, I had to slam it over to get it over there. All right. Yeah, so now I have a chat window visible over on top of XSplit. So if I mess up again by accidentally leaving myself muted, I should be able to catch that. Now let's get back here to this one. All right. And hello, Bobby. Wintermeat says the chat room was mute. I don't know what you mean by that. No, not you. We are. You guys. Oh, you were mute because you weren't talking. You weren't interacting in chat. Oh, that's interesting. Now I can actually read chat and look towards the camera. Not bad. Belden Ball, I assume he's joking in comparison to Zoom. I don't know what I said that sounds like that. All right. So let's get on to my stories. Kind of right here, Friday Topics, it's called. Ran Israel, I'm still in the corner. You guys are messing with me. I can tell it right now. So I got 3 things to talk about. The third item just came up 25 minutes ago. A client texted me saying, I can't print my boarding pass. She didn't really exclaim like that. It was a text message. I couldn't hear her. Let's see, I'll read to you how she put it. I think I should be able to get to that. There we go. Hi, Doug. I'm trying to print a boarding pass for a flight tomorrow, and I keep getting a message that says bad request. Your browser sent a request that this server could not understand. Size of request, header, field exceeds server limit. Is there an easy fix to this? That's what she asked in the text message. Well, you know, sometimes people word their question not really what she means. I'm going to say that she meant, Doug, can you fix this? Yesterday. Does she really need to know if it's easy? So I said, probably, but I don't know without looking at it. I have a 9 o'clock. We could try now if you're not going to be available at 9:30. She replied, can we do it now? So we did that. Took, I don't know, about 15 minutes. I connected remotely to her computer. I already had remote connection capability set up. And I had her show me what she's at. So she's on the airline's website, and there's a button to view the boarding pass, not print it, view the boarding pass. That's what was not working. She'd click on that, and a few seconds later, it'd go to another page with an error message saying something like what I described there. Bad request. Your browser sent a bad request. And the rest of the screen was blank. Nothing there. So my first action was, it was with Microsoft Edge on Windows 11. I went into Microsoft Edge and turned on Internet Explorer mode. That, when we clicked on the button, then it told us you're using an outdated browser. You would have a better experience if you try one of these browsers. So that wasn't going good. So then I installed Google Chrome. This computer did not already have Google Chrome installed. We went to the website and it just worked perfectly. So the takeaway from that is, if you got a website that's not working with one browser, try another. I've had quite a few experiences where that just fixes it. Just use a different browser. Here it goes, the mute button. That time I used the mute button on the Stream Deck, and I'm going to check to see if you're still hearing me on the Stream Deck. Yes, audio is still working. Then which one of these am I going to do next? Let's do, the key, rebooting a computer. They came up with a prompt that they weren't able to get past. So I've got a picture for that. I'm going to bring that one up on a photo here, get that photo queued up for you, and then punch this button and then punch this button. So here's a photograph from the monitor. Gives us some information about the computer here, processor type, speed, so on. And here it is, 511-CPU fan not detected. And it says F1 boot. So she describes this to me before showing me the picture, before I saw the picture. She describes this screen to me, reads it all the way through, gets down to the bottom, F1 boot. And I say, okay, well, let's try pressing the F1 key on the keyboard. And some of you are thinking, really? Is it that simple? Could she not understand that? It's not that simple. She said it doesn't respond. I press the F1 key, it doesn't respond. Nothing happens. I had already realized at this point that this is not the computer for the person who's on the phone with me. She's talking to me about the computer for a coworker. And at that point in time, I didn't know what's going on with the coworker. Is a coworker there? It is possible that this person is essentially an assistant to paralegals and attorneys. This person's computer that normally is using this computer is a paralegal. So I didn't know quite why is this other person talking to me about this? And I'm talking to her about the keyboard. I say, on the keyboard, some keyboards have these blue keys where you have to, like this one, the F1 key is shown in blue. So you may have to hold down the FN key and press F1 in order to get that function. So I said, is the F1 on that key any different? Is it a different color or anything? She says, no. But there is also the word help on that key. But there's no FN key. So, what's going on here? And somewhere around in this time, I realized this computer has had this F1 boot problem for a long time. And I've looked at it with that staff member at her computer. And I've told her, well, what I can do is shut the computer down and open up and check to see what's going on with the CPU fan, but I know that I have looked at this computer before and the CPU fan is opening. I've opened the side, that's what it was. I opened the side cover and the CPU fan is running, even though it claims it's not. Now, maybe it doesn't start up right away. Maybe the signal's not going through. It didn't really track that down. And I told her that I can take the computer apart and try to fix that. But we'd have to shut down your computer. And it was she was in the middle of work and didn't want to do that. She says, no, it's okay. I can just press the F1 key. So the person that's normally at this computer has been pressing the F1 key, and she's fine with that. So we never pursued it. Now I'm starting to realize that this is a different person, and it eventually comes out that the person who's regularly at this computer has been off for a few days. All right. Can you send me a photo of the keyboard? I'm thinking there's got to be some explanation of what's going on here. So she sends me a photo of the keyboard, and here's what I get. I'm gonna give you a few moments to figure out what the solution is. To tell me in chat what the solution is. Here's the keyboard, and she was describing it. This coworker, that's not usually at this computer, was describing it as an old keyboard, an old-fashioned keyboard, and this is a very different looking keyboard. So here's the F1 key. Let's see. Yeah, you're going to see my mouse here real tiny. So here's the F1 key. So I'm waiting to see if anything pops up in chat about what the solution is here. Let me give you a clue. Simple. Simple solution that I could not figure out until I saw the photo of this keyboard. Then obviously. Ran Israel says control. No, it's not the control key. What is it there? Gary says FN or escape. Nope. Dennis says I can barely make out the image. The keys are too small. FN key from Lawn Dog. Gary F1. No. So I'm going to zoom in up in this area where the F1 key is and see if you can figure it out. You might have had to experience one of these keyboards in the past with this issue. Rick, yeah, that's old. I have not seen one of those keyboards in many years. There it is, Wintermute, the lock button. I think it's Alt from Bobby. No. Something to do with those side keys, Lawn Dog. No. I'm going to point to it up here because Wintermute got it. It's the lock button right here. This lock button locks the function keys. It works like a caps lock key, where you're either getting the functions that are on the top of the keys up here, or you're getting the function key numbers themselves. So I told her just press that lock key once and then try the F1 key. And she says, oh, that worked. So that's all it was. And it was just because this was a different person using this computer. Now, the other piece of this is they normally leave their computers on. Why was this happening? And I said, well, it could have been a power outage or a problem with the computer. But then, wait a minute, I realized this was yesterday, which was Thursday of the week that contains the second Tuesday of the month. Some of you experienced this. Windows updates this month required a restart. It doesn't always require that. So this computer would have automatically restarted after hours in order to complete the updates, and that's why it was stuck at that screen for pressing the F1 key. The normal person at this computer, she's not phased with that at all. She just presses the F1 key. If it doesn't respond, I'm sure she already knows about that lock key. I've probably been through this with her before. Okay, now let's get on to the third topic. I've got my monitor number 1 off of the screen. So this is a third Tech Tales story. I've got, give a little bit of description of this. A client sent me an email that they thought, is this a scam? That's what they're asking me. Is this a scam? And it was telling them, I'm going to read part of it here without showing it. Then I'll read some of it later. That's just to save me from having to blur out a portion of it. So there's got this blue rectangle, DNS hosting end of life notice. TPX, which is their internet service provider, capital T, capital P, lowercase x. TPX will discontinue this service on December 6, 2022. And then they have more information that I'm going to take you to in a moment. But first, describe how they presented this. One of their staff people sent me forwarded this email to me. Doug, is this a scam? Then one of the executives, one of the senior attorneys, forwarded this to me asking a similar question. Is this something we need to do? And he said, this looks important. Do we need to do this? And then the third person, which was the business manager, said, let's make sure this isn't a scam before we do anything with it. So I replied to all saying, I will check it out. And that came to me, I think it came to me yesterday, like just as I was getting ready for this Windows Daily. Well, not this one, yesterday's edition of Windows Daily. Oh, such a Doug. And I went to check it out, and yes, it is legit. We do need to fix this, and it is frustrating to me about this internet service provider because they've been dumping one service after another that they used to do for my client. We've talked about DNS recently. We've done some episodes about DNS recently, about DNS settings on a computer, and we did that performance testing of different DNS servers. So now this is the other side of it. My client has a custom domain name. So it's their email name and then it's their company name .com. Who hosts their DNS? And this is something for every website all around the world. Every website is hosted by one DNS service provider. And not one DNS server, maybe. The DNS service provider might have multiple computers that they use to provide DNS services for their domain clients, domain name clients. So in this case, this internet service provider was providing the DNS services for my client's custom domain so that when somebody anywhere in the world types in my client's website address or domain name, then their computer and their router or their internet service provider or their DNS or gateway machine on their end is going to send a message out looking who does this DNS, what IP address does this DNS belong to. They don't have to get all the way to the DNS server for TPX, because DNS servers all around the world have the entire DNS database available to them, and they can respond with appropriate IP address. But where do those DNS servers get their information from about my client? They have to get it from my client's DNS service provider, which in this case is TPX. So TPX, if my client makes changes, or if I make changes on their behalf to their domain name somehow, that information is recorded in TPX's name servers, and that propagates throughout the world. That information gets updated to all the other DNS servers in the world. So now TPX is saying, we quit. We're done. We're not doing this anymore. You got to go find someone else to do this grunt work for you, because we don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to go show you a little bit about this email because they provided some specific information. I've been through this before. I've done this before. It's not a new thing. It says, our records indicate that TPX was providing DNS hosting service for your organization's domain. TPX will discontinue providing DNS hosting as of December 6th. If you are actively using yada yada, let's get a little bit further on down this. The DNS hosting of your domain is critical to support your website, email, and other applications. It's simple to transition this to another company who specializes in DNS hosting services. They're implying that we don't specialize in that. We don't want to do that anymore. It's not profitable for us. They're saying like GoDaddy, Network Solutions, and others. When I went and looked through my client's records, I found, their domain registrar, what is trouble with that word? their domain registrar is Network Solutions already. So we created the domain name for my client through Network Solutions. And subsequent to that, somewhere down the road, TPX became the domain services host for that. I got a little story to tell about that. If you no longer use this service from TPX, there's no action required, but simply reply to this email, let us know you're all set. So I went to whois.net, I think it is, and put in my client's domain name to find out who is their domain name server. Now I can't do that at a command prompt on my computer, because if I go try to find out DNS server on my computer, that's who's providing domain name services for me when I try to reach somebody else. I needed to know who is hosting that domain name. So when I went to do that, I found that the domain name servers were set for arrival dot something or other. The DNS server's name was something arrival. Arrival is a former ISP that my client was using to provide to be their internet service provider. It's called Arrival. And I think between that and TPX, yeah, there was also Telepacific. So Telepacific Communications bought out Arrival, and then TPX, which is kind of a name change or something, rebranding, I think, for Telepacific. TPX acquired Telepacific. Now I have another client who had another provider before Arrival. Arrival bought out the prior provider, and then Telepacific bought them out, and then TPX bought them out. And this whole thing has caused just nightmares. Wintermute says, never Network Solutions. I'm not a big fan of Network Solutions. They've been a real nuisance, but back in the day, that was the only place you could turn to. When I went to get my own domain name, my first domain name, DougBetts.com, in the early 90s, I think it was, mid-90s, somewhere around there, Network Solutions was the only game in town. This client already has their domain registrar as Network Solutions. I have another client, and I've talked to him about them before, a CPA's office, that had Network Solutions as their registrar and their domain services and their email. Well, the way we got away from that is I fired that client. There was another step. We actually got a new domain name for them because the ownership structure of the company changed. That's why I fired them. The new person in charge and I did not get along. It was causing me too much stress in my life. They were a pretty big dollar client, and the stress just isn't worth it for me. So you've heard the story about that if you've been around this channel for a while. But since Network Solutions is already the domain name registrar, that's going to be simpler to move the domain name services to them. And that's what I'm going to do. It'll work. Yeah, it wouldn't be my first choice, but it'll work. Sorry, Wintermute. If that bothers you, you can do a Google search for therapists in your area to help you get over that. Nah, I'm sure he'll be fine. Let's see. I'm getting 6 more minutes to go. Ken has a premiere scheduled today, starting at the bottom of the hour. So I'll take a little bit more. Here's what I'm going to do. Are you interested in this? I think there's going to be at least some of you that say yes to this. I will try. Well, I will record my work doing that to show all the steps of doing that process. Now, in order to publish that as a video, I'm going to have to do some editing to put clips together because it's not all going to happen in one sitting. And I'm going to have to blur stuff out. I've been trying to get away from spending a lot of time on putting videos together, but I think that'll be an interesting one. So Gary says, yes, LOL. Is that in regards to sticking with Network Solutions, or is that in regards to making a video out of this? Do you want to see a video about that whole process? Wintermeat has a client that uses them. It's a constant headache. Yeah, I've been through the headaches. I know that. Now, fortunately, we don't have email with them. This was another thing that TPX quit. They said, we're not going to do this anymore. It used to be that they wanted to be the intermediary for our Microsoft 365 accounts, and they wanted to manage our email. And then they got to a point where they said, no, we're done with that. So we had to move our Microsoft 365 email from TPX to be straight operated from Microsoft. And I think TPX still has their finger in the middle there for some of our subscriptions. When we first set up with them for this, when they wanted us to go to that with them, we set up a certain number of accounts for Microsoft 365 accounts that we pay for through TPX on a contract. And then we had new hires come in. Well, I bought those straight from Microsoft. I did not want to go through TPX for that because oftentimes my client would tell me, they'd send me an email or something, say, we got a new person starting tomorrow. Can you set them up? Really? So yes, if I can buy it straight from Microsoft, yeah, I can do that. But if I wanted to add another account through TPX, I had to go to their website and open the ticket and explain to them what I wanted them to do. And then within the next 24 to 48 hours, whatever, well, I rarely used it because they were so bad at it. So I didn't want to do anything that I relied on that company. And if they wind up hearing me talk bad about them, I'm sorry, they deserved it. I've done complaints to their company. I've complained to executives. I've had my client has picked up the phone and called their executives and complained about the difficulties I was having getting response from their tech staff. Ugh. They hire people to start the same or next day. Yeah, well, that's when they tell me about it. I don't know when they started looking for the new person, and I think it's basically that they've gotten accustomed to the fact that I can do it. Bobby, I use Final Cut Pro 10. When I had my iMac here for multiple years when I was doing the aviation videos, I was using Final Cut Pro. Now I'm Adobe Premiere Pro. So I've caught some of the chat messages going along there as we've gone through this, and I think what I'll do is go ahead and wind this down, and I'll read through more chat messages afterwards. You should get a redirect to Ken Stout's Premiere. It's going to start in less than a minute. So here we go. I hope that was useful. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye.